We've covered a lot of ways to make bills of materials in Alibre, but there are even more options to format them. Let's go through that in this video. This is the bill of materials that we've been working on. If I wish to make some further changes to it, I can double-click on it to come into this bill of materials editing environment. And perhaps I have these socket head screws. Perhaps I'd like to put socket head screws and other supplier parts at the bottom of the bill of materials. So we can renumber these, or at least move them to the bottom, by clicking and dragging like so. Our wheels also. Right? And so when we have these things at the bottom of the table, you can see though that our item numbers are 1, 5, 6, 7, and then at the bottom we have 2, 3, 9. So our item numbers are all out of order. And if I close my bill of materials, you can see that that is reflective on the drawing. So I'll double click on my bill of materials. What we'll do is select this resequence button. And now the items are placed back in the correct order with all the numbers sequentially again. We've talked about adding columns, but I also can add a row. So I'll choose append, and another row comes on the bottom here. So I can create my own rows if there's something else I need in my bill of materials that is not automatically showing up for one reason or another. When I select the entire row, I have the option to hide a row, and it is gone. And if I close my document, you can see it is no longer there. But if I choose View Hidden Rows, then I can see what is hidden, and it has this little yellowish marker to tell me that it is hidden. I also can select my row and choose Unhide Row if I wish for it to show again. And of course, there it is showing at the bottom. I can also simply choose this Add Row if I wish to continue to add rows, and I can always delete rows from the right click, or I can choose this delete button up here in the ribbon. Perhaps I'd like to have my viewing options on this be a little bit different, right? Perhaps maybe I only want column lines. Well, I can come over here to this option, and from row and column lines, just choose column lines, and you'll see that nothing visually changed here. But if I close my environment, then you can see that now we only have column lines. Likewise, if I go to only having row lines and close, we only have row lines. I'd like my bill of materials to have both. Maybe I'm an old-fashioned geek that way, but we'll go with row and column lines both. Now maybe we've had the experience that we really want to have some narrow columns, but when we do, it cuts off the text and we can't see everything that is in that column. So I'll simply highlight everything and choose Word Wrap. And when I do, things are brought into multiple lines so we can better read them. I can choose a column and select Auto Fit if I wish to have the narrowest column possible with everything fitting on one row. I also can adjust my row height, of course, by clicking and dragging. Or I can choose this row height over here and select an actual dimension for my height of rows. And I can choose one row height for all rows if I'd like to open up the table a little bit more, or even reduce the size of it. I can highlight the whole table and select font as well. Perhaps I'd like to change the font, or I can always hit Ctrl-Z if there's any changes I've made to the table that I don't actually want. Now I may want to reorder some of my columns, right? Maybe instead of by item number, I want to sort by quantity, and I want to have everything in the order of ascending quantity. Well, I can just simply hit this ascending button up here, and the table is reordered to have the lowest quantities to the highest. And likewise, I can choose descending if I want to go from the highest value to the lowest. Now you'll notice my item numbers are not following 1, 4, 9, 11, 12, 3, 2, right? And we want our item numbers to be updated. So I can again hit the resequence, and then our item numbers are updated correctly. You'll notice from a previous video that I have overridden some values of my cells, and they show up as purple as a result. If I wish to undo that, I can highlight my cell and choose Undo Override, and then the original cell value is restored. I can always highlight my column and choose Auto Fit if I'd like to have my big long columns. You'll notice that we have our word wrap active, and that is being used here. I can undo my word wrap if I would like. But of course, that's quite a long name, so I can either go right into my part and shorten this value, or I can just edit it straight from the tree, even though the part properties will remain the way that they were. So that should be most or all of the options that we have with our bills of materials for this particular drawing. And if I close it now, we can have our updated bill of materials. And I think we're good with bills of materials. Let's cover a new topic in the next video. We'll see you then.